Director of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Durban, Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi, Brahmacharini Keertida Chaitanya, Mr. Rajish Lutchman, Mr. Satyam Chunu, Mr. Piyush Khandelwal, distinguished guests, online viewers, listeners, namaskar, and welcome to the 11th episode of Aarshdhara. Aarshdhara is an online series of interactions on scriptures composed by ancient sages of India. Today, we will be discovering, recovering, and decoding the Taittiriya Upanishad with Brahmacharini Keertida Chaitanya ji. To commence today's program, I'd like to invite Mr. Rajish Lutchman ji, the CEO of Hindvani radio station, for this evening's remarks.
Namaste Saviko. Namaste Dr. Chaitanya Prabhu, Prakash ji, Piyush ji, Shristi ji, Brahmacharini Keertida Chaitanya ji, and Piyush ji. On behalf of the Hindi Siksha Sangh and of course Hindvani, we welcome you all to this wonderful program. Aarshdhara, imagine 11 sessions have gone and 11 months of hard work by the team. Thank you all very much for that. As you dear listeners and viewers, the Aarshdhara series is an attempt to unpack some of the wonderful gems of wisdom that our sacred scriptures have and our writings of our sages and seers have. And we hope to present this in an uncomplicated way so that our folks can get access to it and understand how it could be utilized in the day-to-day life. So once again, thank you very much to the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center for this wonderful initiative, and we at Hindi Siksha Sangh and Hindvani are deeply grateful to be able to partner this with you. Once again, welcome to everybody, and we look forward to an interesting engagement.
Thank you so much, Rajesh, sir, for those lovely introductory remarks. Indeed, this program is in association with the Hindi Siksha Sangh of South Africa and Hindvani radio station. Today, our guest speaker is Brahmacharini Keertida Chaitanya ji from the Chinmaya Mission of South Africa. Just a brief background about Keertida ji. Keertida ji studied a 2-year residential Vedanta course under Pujay Swami Abhedanand ji, the spiritual head of the Chinmaya Mission of South Africa. Since her Brahmacharya Diksha in 2017, she was posted to Johannesburg to continue seva towards the mission and Pujay Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda ji in the form of conducting classes on Vedanta, Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita, Sanskrit, and others. Sit back, relax as we take you through this very interesting Upanishad, and that is the Taittiriya Upanishad with Brahmacharini ji and Rajesh ji.
Namaste Keertida ji. Is it okay if I call you Keertida ji, or do you prefer any other name, Jim?
No, it's fine.
Or Brahmacharini ji, is that better?
No, whatever you prefer, Rajesh ji.
Acha, namaste and welcome to our program. We're indeed delighted to have you here. The Taittiriya Upanishad has a wonderful place in our scriptures, and perhaps the starting point would be for you to unpack very briefly a kind of introduction to the Upanishad and where does it, in terms of the number of Upanishads we have, where its place is.
Okay. So Taittiriya is part of one of the 10 Upanishads which Adi Shankaracharya has written bhashya on, commentary on. So it is generally studied towards the latter part, generally after Mundak Upanishad, etc., because it is a very terse Upanishad. So this Upanishad is found in the Krishna Yajurved, and in this Upanishad there are 3 chapters called Valis. So it's called Shiksha Vali, Brahmanand Vali, and Bhrugu Vali. So very shortly, Shiksha Vali explains about the dharma, upasana, our values through which the student has to go through in his early life, and then leads to the Brahmanand Vali, which is the core of this Upanishad. And in this Brahmanand Vali, the essence of consciousness or Brahman and the nature of that and how it is my nature, that is expounded. Then in Bhrugu Vali, in a story form, it is connecting Shikshavali and Brahmanandvali, in which Bhrigu Rishi or Bhrigu is the son of Varun, and he approaches his father with regards to this Brahma Vidya. So in short, this covers the entire Taittiriya. I think you're muted.
Thank you very much for that. So if we look at each of the Upanishads, all of them have a unique flavor and a unique message, which is always enlightening. What is perhaps unique of the Taittiriya Upanishad?
You see, the Taittiriya Upanishad, firstly, it gives a lot of upasanas for the individual. And how this upasana, when the individual performs it very well, with the grace of the Guru, of course, by staying with the Guru, and how it brings up something called jignasa. So jignasa means the desire to know. So the desire to know about ourselves, about the world. So that is that which comes after performing our dharma properly. So what I will say is unique about this Upanishad is the approach in which the Upanishad takes in analyzing our 5 personalities, which is the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanmaya, Anandamaya Kosh, and eventually coming to the substratum of these koshas called Brahman. And so very beautiful analysis is there about this, and also the techniques of how we can abide in that consciousness. Firstly, negating what is not true or not real, or what is called Is Satyam. And by the process of negation or upasana, then we come to realize what is this Brahman. So the importance of this, I would say, is Satyam Gyanam Anantam Brahma, which is a very important message for everybody, actually. So before we go on to that, the unique point of it is the techniques and process which is taken in this Upanishad for realizing who we are.
I need to just bring your attention. You use 2 words, Brahman and Upasana. Maybe you want to share what these words mean for our listeners and viewers.
So upasana is, so you get your karmas, your vidhi, nished, etc. And upasanas is also kind of puja. It is our daily puja, etc. But with the attitude of expanding our mind to the higher. So for example, if my Isht is Bhagwan Ram or Bhagwan Shiv, so with the intention that I want to expand my view, to expand my understanding, so I can see my Bhagwan in everybody. This is called upasana. So upasana helps us with our rag, our dvesh, our hatred, our likes, dislikes, etc., by realizing my Lord, by seeing everything as my Bhagwan. So it expands our mind, expands our heart. This is the importance of upasana. And the word Brahman, which we will also see, is that it comes from Braha Dhatu in Sanskrit. And generally it means to expand. But actually speaking, when Brahma word is being used, it's not a verb, it's a noun. So that which is not limited by space, time, and object, that is called Brahman or consciousness. And this Upanishad is going to establish that, how we are that particular, how we are that Brahman.
Thank you very much for that. When we look at the Taittiriya Upanishad, and often all the other Upanishads, we always grapple with its relevance in terms of our 21st century living and lifestyle. Perhaps you want to unpack its relevance for us?
Yeah. See, all our scriptures are relevant, actually. And our Upanishad especially is very relevant because it speaks about ourselves. Our entire duty is what we call. it's only because of ourselves. Whether if it's our children, whether if it's our work, it's only because we want to maintain a particular identity because we're gaining some existence from it. So every Upanishad, whether if it's Munda, Taittiriya Upanishad, Prashno, etc., any Upanishad, it's expounding about ourselves. In this world, we are struggling to find ourselves. Unfortunately, we are using the means called karma, which is fine, but we find that the karma is our goal. And this is the problem, and this is a misunderstanding in society. So karma is the means, it's not our goal. The karma, dharma, upasana, etc. is our means so that we can realize our goal called Brahman or I, or to be established in our own self and perform action. So when the Upanishad, I'm going to take the core point of this Upanishad, which is most relevant, important, and everybody should know about it, is that it says, Brahma vida apnoti param tadesha bhyukta satyam gyanam anantam brahma. So when it is said Satyam Gyanam Anantam Brahma, this is our essential nature. So I'll break that down very quickly. What is said as Satyam Gyanam Anantam Brahma is same as saying as Satchidanand. So what is Satyam Gyanam Anantam? See, Brahma word again has been used to connect the essential and spiritual principle behind the world and to connect the spiritual principle behind this body and Jeev, which is enlivening this person, that is Brahman. Therefore, Brahman word was being used. And how is this Brahman? Or how are we Satyam, Gyanam, and Anantam? So what is Satyam? How do we decide what is Satyam? Generally, we say what we see is Satyam. What we see, everybody's normal perception. But actually speaking, Shankaracharya says that if you decide something is its nature, so I believe body is real. So body is real. For me, this is Satyam. But actually speaking, if something is Satyam, it should not change. Under any circumstances, under any time, it should not change. So that which doesn't change at all times, in all places, in all births also, that is called Satyam. And that is called existence. So if we look at it in our daily life, actually speaking, we are all wanting Satyam. When I say I become a worker, or when I say I become a father or a mother, actually speaking, you got an identity. And from that identity, I'm getting my existence. I'm drawing my existence from that. So so as if now I am existing because of that identity. And that is why when somebody passes away or something happens, we say, I don't know what I'm living for. I feel so shattered. Why? Because we drew our existence from that. From that particular identity, that particular achievement, that particular status which we feel is defining us. So we live by that. So actually speaking, we want existence because our nature is Satyam. We want Satyam, but we want Satyam in a different place. We want Satyam from something which is not Satyam. Body is changing. Our family also change. Mind is also changing. Our place in society is also changing. Everything is changing. And this is the ignorance aspect, is that we want to draw our Satyata, our existence, from something which is changing. And therefore, the Upanishad is declaring Satyam. This notion that I won't be there, or I'm born now, all this is negated by the word Satyam. So actually speaking, when we say I'm achieving this particular thing, or I want this, but you want some existence, you want an identity. So actually speaking, you want Satyam, but we just don't know that. Then Gyanam, we all want Gyanam. What kind of Gyanam? See, I won't go into too much of detail because it's quite technical in the Upanishad. One is Gyanam here is mentioned because it refutes science. Because science says that the world has come from something which is inert. And Upanishad says the cause of the world cannot be inert, it has to be sentient. And therefore, Gyanam word is used. Because Gyanam is something is living. So this is one aspect. The other aspect is there's two kinds of Gyanam. One is objective knowledge and one is unobjective knowledge. So objective knowledge is what? Objective knowledge is what we can see, what we perceive through our senses, what we can feel, what we can conceive at the mind level, that which comes at your thought level. So that is called objective Gyanam. But for example, when you go to sleep, the senses withdraw. When you go into deep sleep, you're not aware of your body. There's no identification. There's no identification with mind. But still you are existing. So that existence or that Gyanam, which is objectless and still existing without any means, without the mind, I am existing. Because when we come out of the deep sleep state, we know that we were there. So, we say, I had a good sleep. How do you know you had a good sleep? In deep sleep, how do you know that you had a good sleep when you come out? So you must have been there. So that knowledge in which there's no object, that is the knowledge which I am, in which all knowledges, all thoughts, when I say knowledges, all thoughts, where all thoughts are getting illuminated, that is called Gyanam. And I am that Gyanam which is illuminating the thought. Without me present, no thought can be known. I have to be present first, then only a thought can be known. So this is called Gyanam. And then Anantam. Anantam. Another word for Anantam is Anand. So Anantata and Anandata, both are actually synonyms. So when we speak about Anand or bliss or joy, actually we want Anant. Something which does not limit me. If I feel limited by money, I feel limited because of security, or I feel limited, I don't have a car. So what we do action to get rid of these limitations. But actually speaking, this is like getting rid of the symptoms and not the cause. Because again, the same thing will come. Because as we go to each stage in our life, we'll always find something which is limiting us. We'll always be dissatisfied. Because after one thought, then another thought. After one thing we'll fulfill, another thing fulfill. Because after I want a house, I've got the house. Then I want security. Then I want money to maintain. Then I want people to fill. Then I want happiness to come around. So from one to the other, it keeps on going. What do we actually want? We actually want Anantata. And why do we want Anantata? Is because we are that Anant. So the Satyam Gyanam, and Gyanam also I must start one point, is that anywhere we go, we read the rules. If I'm going to another country, you want to find out about that country. Why? Because you don't want to remain ignorant. Because knowledge is our nature. So actually speaking, we are searching for our own nature called Satyam, Gyanam and Anantam in the world. That world which is changing, that world which is illumined by me, and that world which is limited. And this is why, and this is called samsara. So this is, therefore, realizing who we are. This is most important for everybody. Whether if it is youth, whether if it is a more elderly person, everybody should know this. So it doesn't mean that the person is young, that he can't listen. Oh, what will happen if I realize I'm the consciousness. Who will do action? No. You can still do action. But like Bhagwan says in Bhagavad Gita, Lok Sangraha is there. So where I'm abiding in my own self, but I'm not doing action out of incompleteness. I'm doing action out of fulfillment. That happens when I realize my nature as Satyam, Gyanam, and Anantam. Supposing I know now this is called Satyam, Gyanam, Anantam, Brahma, but I'm not abiding. Supposing I am not abiding, I'm still not yet to experience that consciousness. What should we do? Therefore, that Shikshavali which is there's various upasanas and dharmas which is given. That is the means for purification of the mind. So whether if I'm a married person, whether if I'm a working person, these are the people or these are the means so I can purify my mind based on dharma. That action based on dharma, which I'm doing in the world to purify my mind, so that I can realize the Satyam, Gyanam, and Anantam. So my goal, which is there, that is not blurred. So my action, all the actions we do every day, whether if it's waking up, whether if it is bathing, if I don't want to say consciousness, don't say consciousness, say Bhagwan. I'm doing it to please Bhagwan. Or I'm doing it to realize Bhagwan. So this is the core message called Satyam, Gyanam, and Anantam. We use it in technical words. Other people use it in fancy words. So we are just saying that actually what you want is Satyam Gyan. You want existence. You don't want people, what not they do for beauty? What not they do to keep the body young? Why? Because you don't want to accept the truth. Body's nature is to change and die. But we want to be existing. Why? Because our nature is of existence. Which existence and which Gyanam and which Anantam? Referenceless. Referenceless. If I remove my reference of a mother, I remove a reference, I am a female, I remove a reference that I'm a Brahman, I remove all my references, I'm a friend, mother, whatever. What is my nature without these references? Who am I without these references? That referenceless self, that who is who I am.
Thank you very much for that. So Brahmacharini ji, one of the things that is most beautiful about our scriptures, and of course the verses from our sacred texts, is what we refer to as the enunciation and the recitation of verses. So we'd be deeply grateful to you if you'd kindly recite perhaps 2 or 3 verses from the Upanishad and perhaps share your interpretation of its meanings.
Very short because each mantra is very long.
We understand, yes.
So one is already I've chanted Brahma Vidapnoti Taresha Bhutam Satyam Gyanam Anantam Brahma. So that already we saw. Just one which is in the Upasana section, which I will just chant very quickly. Yat Chandasam Rishabho Vishwarupaha Chandobhyo Dhamritaat Sambhabhuva Samendro Medhaya Aspranotu Amritasya Devadharano Bhuyasam Shariram Me Vicharshanam Jyoha Me Madhumattaya Karna Abhyam Bhuri Vishruvam. So that last part was not there. So it is Shrutam Me Gopaya. So here in this is called Medha Upasana. And one of the upasanas given in Shikshavali. So who is Medha? So at that time the students used to worship Medha Devi because concentration, memory, all this is required, not just of scriptures, but also circular knowledge, geography, biography, everything was taught in our Gurukul system at that time. And to remember all this, you required lots of Medha Shakti. So this upasana is there. So many upasanas are given. You are trained to think like that. So they are chanted in a particular way. Why they chanted in a particular way? Because each sound corresponds to a particular object or that particular devta or devi. So when you chant in a particular way, you are actually bringing the sound and the object are not too different. So that is why there's a particular way in which you chant and which brings that. Like Gayatri Mantra also comes here also. But more than the meaning is the way you say it. Because sound and object, they are not two different. That is also a technical matter, which is discussed. Then also in Bhriguvali, where it says, Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jivanti, yena jatani jivanti. So there it says, where it says that this entire Srishti is nothing but Brahman. So the cause of this world is Brahman. From that Brahman, how Jeev has come, how it is percolating when I say Jeev, it means the animals also, the ants also, right till Brahmaji. So in the Bhashya, Shankaracharya's Bhashya, it says from the stump to Brahmaji, from the smallest being to the biggest called Brahmaji. Or throughout the creation is this Brahman. And therefore, every being that is around us, every person in whichever form, actually speaking, it is the consciousness. Whether if it's this body, whether if it is an ant, whether if it is a tree, whether if anybody, it is this pure consciousness who is the material cause of this. And therefore, in this world, there's nothing existing except for consciousness. And when we realize this, when I see you, or when you see me, there won't be question of like or dislike. There won't be question of hatred. There won't be question of I don't like you or fault seen. So there's no question of I disregard somebody. So seeing this entire creation as that consciousness. So here the Upanishad is saying that everything has come from, if something has come from the consciousness, then it is the consciousness. Here fromward is also a technical matter, but just for explanation purposes, we are saying from. So from this consciousness, everything, that means everything is in this, everything in this world is nothing but consciousness. And who's this consciousness? Nothing but me only. And I can't disrespect myself. So if I'm that consciousness and that consciousness is everything, I can't hate you now because I can't hate myself. I can't see fault. I can't see fault in myself. I can't hold on to these things. I can't hold on to hate, differences, etc. Therefore, our Mahatmas, our sadhus, etc., they are able to love. Why are they able to love anybody? Because it of this jnanam only, of the consciousness. The same consciousness which is in me is in the same form as you, different form. But same principle is there. Therefore, I'm not different. At our essential level, we are not different. Therefore, we can respect each other, love and accept each other very freely.
Thank you for that. You have more or less covered many of the issues that are in the next question. But while we are at that, the Upanishads as a whole is always universal and completely relevant and relevant to all creation. And you just explained why it is important for us to have a consciousness, understand consciousness as that of the ant going right up to Brahma. But for the layman who is listening to this, how does he unpack this and understand it in terms of his own particular reality? Perhaps you want to share an example.
See, if you don't wish to say consciousness, you say Bhagwan or God, whichever God. Whether if you're saying Jesus, whether if you're saying Allah, whether if you're saying Ram Bhagwan, if you believe in God, then you believe that God has created this world. And if God has created this world, He's created me, He's created you. So if by this creation, and if I love God and I want to be with Him, I want to see Him everywhere, I see that everything is His form only. So if I don't know anything about consciousness, jnana, etc., it's fine. Bhakti, you see, come towards the devotion part. That my Bhagwan or my Isht, whoever my Bhagwan is, he will not like that I behave in this way to another being. He will not prefer that I have this thought. He will not prefer that I have this kind of behavior. Therefore, in our, I think in Manusmriti, it is said that also you shouldn't drag something with your feet because there's a devta everywhere. So when Bhagwan is everywhere, when everybody has this understanding, general understanding that Bhagwan is everywhere, or this is my Bhagwan's creation, never mind I can't see him, but I should respect it. And therefore, when we see all these abuses for animals, any beings, etc., actually you're hurting Bhagwan. So when we realize that everything is nothing but his form, or this is my Bhagwan expressing here, then I should have a better behavior. We should have a better behavior. So this is what I feel.
Thank you very much. So if among our listeners there's an aspirant here who wants to look at researching and understanding Upanishads, and particularly the Taittiriya Upanishad better, what would be some of the challenges you think he'd have in terms of the difficulties and, of course, understanding the processes that the study demands?
See, many people can do PhD in our scriptures, but what is the main point is that, or what is the important point of our scripture is that vritti. Vritti means thought. Thought needs to be formed. And that can only be formed when you're sitting at the feet of a teacher. Because in universities, you do get courses, etc., that offer research. But that's at your intellectual level. So a person may understand our scripture at intellectual level. But the essence of it, they won't grasp. Because that essence of it can only become when you are under a acharya, a proper acharya who has come from Parampara. So in terms of as it is Taittiriya, there's many aspects to this. Firstly, understanding the upasanas are difficult. Then coming to in the Brahmana and Bali, the analysis of our koshas, all that is difficult. Somewhere Rigved mantra is chanted. Somewhere another mantra from another Ved is there. So who will tell you all this? Who will tell us all this? If you're studying on your own, who will tell you? You won't know. And that is why our Parampara is Guru Shishya Parampara. You should learn from a guru who has come from Parampara. Otherwise, research on its own, what happens with research on its own? If the mind is a Sanskrit man, if the mind is not cultured, no dharma and upasana is there, what happens? See, intellectually we can understand, but what will happen? I'll find something contradictory. Then they'll say that Upanishad is contradictory. Or then they'll say Bhagavad Gita, but you don't know what is the context. You don't know why it's being said here. Because mind has a tendency to read in a flow. But that's not how our scriptures work. That's not how the Upanishads work. Therefore, to connect what is going with what, which is the meaning of the word, why this is there, you require a guru. So as far as if you want to do, anybody wants to do research, of course they can do. Even in our Chinmaya Mission, SIF is there, Chinmaya Mission International Foundation. That is our research ashrams there. So they also do research. But that is from an academic point of view. Anyone wants to do it, they can do it. But it is very terse. So I do suggest that they learn from a proper person before going on your own. Another thing is that even if they want to do it on their own, be very careful of not concluding. Do not conclude that I read it here and this is the meaning. No, you don't know. You go and find out. So this is very, very important. Because many people are scholars. Many people are scholars. They can talk, they can do. But their essence, their character, no change in the character. What are you studying? Intellectual knowledge won't help.
So the way I understand it is that your motivation or inspiration to study any of the Upanishad, in particular the Taittiriya Upanishad, must be for you to be able to imbibe, understand our consciousness and its relationship to our maker. But more importantly, it must be something that engages us at a point where we can transform our character according to what our dharmic principles are. Is that is that understanding clear?
See, firstly, my inspiration is when grace of Bhagwan and love of Bhagwan expresses in the heart, then it comes as inquiry to the truth. And it is through his grace that we meet the right teacher. So it is his inspiration, and it is with his grace that I will reach that goal, which is the of the Upanishads. So one is our Shikshavali, then is the Brahmananda. So without imbibing into your values, change of character, without change of character first. So change of character means, in our Shastri terms, we call it sadhan chatushte, gaining your qualifications. How does gaining of qualifications come? By what you are saying, character building, your dharma, etc. That is your first part. And that is what is very, very important. That molds your mind. That molds your character. When that is fine, then your jnanam becomes very easy to understand. Because that comes from your teacher. So at that time in our Gurukul system, the children used to stay there till about 12 years or so. Because most of the years used to go in character building, giving values, giving dharma. So whether the person continues on this path as a brahmacharini, or the person wants to get married, he's not a confused person. He knows that via this dharma, via my role in my life, whether if I'm a grahast, whether if I'm a married person, I know where's my goal. I know where I have to reach. Right now, I may not have the qualifications to abide in that, what the Upanishads are saying, but via this, what I've learned through my character, I will abide by my dharma, my vidhi nished, and I will reach there.
Brahmacharini, earlier you used a word that perhaps needs unpacking. You spoke about Parampara. What is Parampara?
So Parampara is tradition, where we learn from the teacher, and that teacher has a teacher, and that teacher has a teacher. Like, for example, like Shankaracharya ji. So Shankaracharya ji's teacher was Govindapadacharya ji. Govindapadacharya ji's teacher was Gaudpadacharya ji's teacher. Gaudpadacharya ji's teacher was Sri Shukdev ji Maharaj. So like this, our Parampara comes, where you are studying from the teacher. So like Vedavyas ji is there. Then from Vedavyas ji, he had 4 disciples. Then from there, that Parampara continues. Then another example is like when Shankaracharya ji is there. His 4 disciples that went in the 4 mutt. Then from there, there's each Shankaracharya ji is there. So we come from there. That is called Parampara. The meaning of Parampara is what my teacher said and what I am saying should not be too different. I am not putting my own intellect, and I'm not deciding that this is the meaning here. I'm not deciding what is the meaning. No, my Acharya has done that. I will not say something different than what my teachers have said. I will not bring in my own. Therefore, when we say, you need to hear something new, especially in the youth and the young generation, you want to hear something new, especially when you start learning Ramayana, Bhagavad, even Upanishads, etc. They keep thinking, can you say something new? Actually, you can't say something new because it is the same thing. Something new means that you want to sort out your problem at a situational level. You don't want to go to the cause. Our Parampara sorts out the cause. So Parampara is maintaining our humility, that I have gotten the knowledge from my teacher. I'm not using my ego. I'm not using my own intellect. Of course, we have to use our intellect to understand, but I'm not bringing my doership in there. So my doership, my understanding is my Guru or my Bhagwan. So this is called Parampara, that who has studied from authorized. Therefore, those people who speak on scriptures, those people who are acharyas, we accept them as long as they are from Parampara. Otherwise, anybody can start reading our Shastra, and many things are available online, and people will start saying, oh, this is what he said in Hinduism. This is what he said here. Or this is, but you don't even know what context it is. You don't know why it is said. You don't even know what is the meaning. Therefore, Parampara is required.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end. Perhaps before we close, would you want to make any closing comments before we round up the session?
With regards to this Upanishad, I feel that everybody should learn and everybody should study. And also, when you see Bhagwan Ram or you see Bhagwan Krishna, when we read Ramayana or read Bhagavad, you'll see why Bhagwan Ram did this or why Krishna Bhagwan did it. Actually, it's coming from somewhere. So in this Taittiriya Upanishad only, in Shikshavali, it says Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara. So where then it comes Mata Deva Bhava, Pitra Deva, Acharya Deva Bhava. These are principles which is said in the Upanishad. So what is the meaning of Satyam Vada? What is the meaning of Dharmam Chara? What is the meaning of Matra Deva Bhava? That is played out by Bhagwan Ram and Bhagwan Krishna. So again, as from a youth point of view and from elderly point of view, everybody should please study and try to listen, even if not Upanishad, but try to listen to some scripture every day or read something every day that will uplift your mind. Something of our scripture. Don't lose touch of your scripture. That will keep the mind on track. Thank you. And thank you to everybody for allowing me to reflect on this Upanishad. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Namaste, Shristiji, over to you.
Indeed, thank you so much, Rajesh ji and Brahmacharini Keertida Chaitanya ji for that very intense knowledge and understanding on this 11th episode of Aarshdhara covering the Taittiriya Upanishad. With that, we've come to the close of today's Aarshdhara episode, and I'd like to invite Mr. C.P.V.M. Chunu from the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Durban to render this evening's vote of thanks.
Namaskar and greetings to all of you. On behalf of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Durban, I am honored today to deliver a vote of thanks on episode 11 of the program Aarshdhara. Today's interactions are on the Taittiriya Upanishad. This is an online series of interactions on scriptures composed by the ancient sages of India. Allow me to thank the following online guests who took part on today's program. Sri Rajish Lutchman ji, COO of Hindvani radio station, for his wonderful introductory remarks this evening, and also for having a wonderful interactions on the Taittiriya Upanishad with Brahmacharini Keertida Chaitanya ji from Chinamaya Missions of South Africa. To Keertida Chaitanya ji, Dhanyavad ma'am for enlightening us about the Taittiriya Upanishad this evening. So to Rajish Lutchman ji, Dhanyavad sir. To Keertida Chaitanya ji, Dhanyavad ji. To Director of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi, Sristi Harinarayan, Sri Piyush Kandelwal, Dhanyavad for taking part on today's program. To all our online participants who were being with us this evening, Dhanyavad for taking part on today's program. For more information on cultural activities organized by Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center in Durban, you are kindly advised to visit ICCR in Durban Facebook page. Once again to Rajish Lutchman ji and also to Brahmacharini Keertida Chaitanya ji, Dhanyavad ji. To all of you, have a wonderful evening. Namaskar.